Taylor Swift is a link builder. There were rumors that she would get engaged. Our client said, let's give them a free wedding venue. And then we got them 50 links. That's digital PR.
Managing multiple clients or large websites? Automate your SEO with Alley AI. Start your free trial now.
Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Hi. So who the heck decided to put me after Tom? It's grossly unfair. So what he's just done is he's come up and he said, okay, this is what you're going to need to be thinking about later on in your journey. He's taken you through a ton of data that justifies it, and then he's come back to his conclusion, which is what a good argument looks like. I'm essentially going to have a bit of an existential crisis on stage for 18 minutes, and then I'm going to share like 3 tactics that I'm using. Then I'm going to talk about someone with a bad shirt. Then I'm going to talk about ice cream. It's going to be a bit different. Before I do that though, who's been in SEO for more than 5 years? Put your hand up. Who's been doing content in SEO for more than 10 years? 15 years, anyone? What's your name?
Tolbin.
Tolbin.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about Tolbin. Shouldn't have put your hand up. So the thing about Tolbin is he's kind of a dirty spammer, or at least was a dirty spammer at one point. If you're in SEO for that long, you had to be, right? And the thing about being in SEO for that long is that you've gone through Panda, you've gone through Penguin, you've gone through all these massive changes in the industry that were really important and changed the way we did things. So by the end of Panda, everyone went from just spinning content to kind of wondering what the heck do they do to create more content. But by 2015, we were creating tons and tons of content again. Content marketing was driving the growth of the internet. This is Common Crawl data. We're seeing the amount of pages on the internet increase and increase and increase. And the reason is because he was seeing his business booming with a ton of content going out there, being outsourced, good enough to rank, not necessarily good enough to do anything useful for the internet, but it ranked, and that's what clients wanted. And Google managed to slow him down for a moment. You see this slowing down here. But soon the pace upped again. But then in 2023, the age of AI content began. We're starting to see this big uptick in content on the internet already. The age of AI content and content tsunami is arriving. And if you ask me, there's going to be a few problems along the way. The first one is keyword research, right? That's kind of why we're here. But keyword research isn't designed to create a few thousand pages, right? We do it, we work out, okay, this is the project for the next 6 months, the next year. Not, this is the library that I'm going to create. This is how I'm going to recreate the Baudelaire for my clients. But we're getting to a stage where we need to start creating that level of content again, or at least a lot of people are. So what we start doing is we scrape the bottom of that keyword research barrel. We take terms that we used to think we're not going to bother creating content for, and we do it because we need more and more pages. That makes what we do less targeted. There we go. But we're kind of okay with that because we're producing more content than ever. So who cares, right? More content, accept more content from more companies with a static population. Everyone in the UK is going to be online, is already online, and they're slowly reducing their reliance on Google. You would have seen in other rooms today, people talking about people using TikTok, people talking about e-com search. People are slowly drifting away to other channels. More content, more companies, static population, reducing Google search volumes. And Google's slowly sending fewer and fewer people off site. We're seeing click-through rates decline too, right? And we'll see that even more because, of course, they've got their own AI play designed to keep people on Google. What does this all mean? It means no one's reading your content. And the content we are reading is increasingly coming from brands that don't actually have a clue what they're talking about. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel like you did too to find things they might want to write about. When they do that, they're putting out more content, and that content, because it's all slightly equally good right now, starts ranking. That means that we get outranked by our undertakers. We're beaten by our butchers. And soon, the only fans on your site are you. The more we scramble, the more we forget. What does this content do for the brand? What does this content do for the consumer? Now, you might think it's fine because Tolbin does amazing content, right? So you can tell his content from everyone else's because it's bloody brilliant. But we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't say that in 3 years' time, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between AI content and human content. It's all going to look the same when you're not actively having them next to each other, trying to work out which is which. So this graph is just going to start increasing. More content, less targeted, less strategy, lower conversion rates. And if you believe any of the articles that are out there right now, a lot of out-of-work content writers. This is a pretty sad story, but not for everyone. Because remember that people are reducing their reliance on Google? Well, I've got some data for that. This is pretty much the first time I brought data to the party, so hooray. When they do search, those searches are increasingly branded. These are the top 100 searches in the UK. SEO Monitor were involved with this. They asked me to blank out some of them, you dirty, disgusting people. Probably Tolbin. But what we notice here in black is that the vast majority of them are branded, right? When we are searching, we're searching navigationally to go directly to a brand rather than actually doing a search that anyone can really control or do anything about. As SEOs, this is a problem. Because I don't search AKTV, I search for John Lewis. I don't search best watches, I go straight to Apple. I don't search best electricity provider, I go straight to Money Saving Expert, or I just Google the brand. What's going on here is that we have certain brands that have become the default. And if you can become the default, you win. Because people are going directly to you, and when they are using organic, they're using organic navigationally. But only brands that deliver on their promise are able to achieve this, which is where 10 articles that resonate with your audience and solves their problem beats 10,000 articles. Because with that content, suddenly the CRM team understands why they might want to share it in their newsletters. The PPC team sees value in sending traffic through that content directly on cheap informational terms. And your CMO understands why it exists, why you exist in the organization. Always a handy thing to have going on. So in the face of the content tsunami, it's time to do what I call context-aware content marketing. Get the context and start plugging that in to everything we do. But I wasn't doing this a year ago, honestly. And the reason I wasn't doing this a year ago might be the same reason that some of you aren't doing this now, which is there's a ton of processes holding us back. And actually over the last 6 months, I've been doing a ton of training. I've been doing a lot of training specifically with SEO Monitor's clients, but I've been doing a bunch of training, and I realized that everyone has exactly the same process for their content marketing. They have the founder who stands on stage or goes and speaks to new clients, and they hand wave and they tell this amazing story with this idea that they've come up with, and the client buys in on that basis. The account manager takes this idea and tries to work out how to turn it into an SEO campaign, passes that to the data analyst who works out some data and does a bit of keyword research. Probably should have been done right at the first stand, but this is the first time they've heard of it. They produce a spreadsheet that's incredibly dry often. The content strategist who got into content strategy because they hate data looks at it and tries to work out what a brief might look like. The content writers do their best to make it something that people might actually want to read. This goes back to the account manager who has the unenviable task of actually telling the client, this is what we've done. Yes, it's not what you saw in the initial pitch, but this is why it's more valuable. The data analyst then justifies it, says it's amazing, no matter what the results are, you can always find something. And then the founder turns up at an awards ceremony, desperately texting everyone, going, what the hell is this? This is not what I pitched. Sound familiar to anyone? Yeah. This is what I was doing a year ago, don't worry. Each step burns budget though. Each step, we're spending time justifying or preparing for what we're doing. The actual content production is the only bit that's directly valuable to the client, right? That's the part where we're actually creating new value for the client. The other 7 steps, preparatory or justification. And actually, if we're focused on our part of that, which most people are because most people like to specialize, we can't do real content marketing when we're focusing on our specialism rather than the outcome for the clients. It makes it really, really hard. I call this pass the parcel SEO. I call it pass the parcel SEO because occasionally the music stops, someone drops the parcel, and a client churns. Have we got anyone from the 7 stars here? Has James turned up today? I think he's there at the back. James will know who at the 7 stars I'm talking about. So, we drop the parcel, client churns. But we do this because as you scale, you want to lean into everyone's specialism. You want to give them the thing that they care about most and the time to do that. And that's really fair. We also do it because it leads to impressive looking process diagrams, which go in our pitch decks and go, we have this covered. We have this unique process we follow to get to this perfect content marketing journey. And we do it because honestly, it's how we were taught to. And we've never really spent much time thinking about why we do the thing that we do. 3 main pain points. 1, inefficiency. We've got 8 processes, only 1 directly driving value. There's a lot of time that isn't implementation. 2, disjointedness. Communication breaks down, misunderstandings, and that. I thought you were dealing with that moment. 3, inconsistency, especially when you're working with external writers. The quality, price, and speed is all over the place, and you're managing that, which is more time again. It creates short-term wins rather than long-term brand growth. It occurs, this whole mess is here because of the T-shaped marketer, right? And like I tried to create more of a W-shaped marketer once. I tried to teach digital PR's data science. It was a horrendous few hours of my life that I'll never get back. The point is that we all have strengths and weaknesses. It's not good to just say, just get good and solve all these things, understand how to do every part of the journey. So how do we do it all ourselves when, we can't do it all ourselves? So the argument I'm putting forward, where I'm putting my money, is on those content writers. Because instead of firing them, I think they end up at the heart of the process. Because content writers, the good ones, the really brilliant ones, do lots of amazing things that aren't writing content. Because they're the only ones that have actually been trained to understand who they're writing for, their objectives and their needs. And that's going to become really important. Understanding the who, what and why of your audience will become vital in creating a brand that resonates. Always was, but we're going to have to start caring about that. When the whole world's pumping out more or less strategic content, how do we transition to this though? Well, this is why I'm on this stage, because I think it starts with keyword research. Let's talk about why people buy or why they don't buy. They don't buy for a few reasons. They don't buy because they don't need a solution. They're just not in market, right? Fair enough. They don't buy because there's better solutions out there. They don't buy because they don't know who the hell you are as a company. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe you're just a horrible company, sorry, and everyone hates your brand. That's a problem. Maybe you're not a good fit for them. It just doesn't make sense for you as a business and them as a consumer. What this boils down to is a framework I call RARE. Resonance, awareness, reputation, and edge. Now, the thing is, almost all keyword research focuses on awareness. How many people are searching each term, and where do we sit in each of those buckets? Sound familiar? That's like 99% of what we do with keyword research. And any SEO tool will tell you this. You can get that data from anywhere. But if we ignore the other factors, we're throwing darts at a dartboard, hoping for a bullseye. We're taking a machine gun to the internet. We're carpet bombing Google. We become the COVID of the internet. Meanwhile, even if we get awareness right, awareness helps consumers buy. It often doesn't help consumers buy from you. So if you get this right, often all you're doing is increasing sales on Amazon rather than on your own sites, which is a bit annoying. So I used to work at a large media agency, and a lot of large media agencies will hand around packets, big pieces of research that cost tens of thousands of pounds to put together for brands, with tons of insights about the consumer, who they are, what they care about. And what would happen is every team would interpret these differently. What I'd realized is we were doing cross-channel pass-the-parcel marketing at that stage. But understanding resonance, reputation, and edge in the market will be vital when the AI content tsunami hits. So the problems I've talked about. Content marketing is about to go parabolic. We're going to see 10 times more content, making it 10 times harder to rank. Current processes are too slow and too disjointed, and often we don't even know what resonates for our brands and for our consumers. We don't know what the fit is. We don't know what our edge is. We don't have that context. So how do we build some context? Let's go back to the framework, resonance. I start by looking at what's already resonating. So you can do this in GA by looking at conversions by organic landing pages, right? What pages on the site that are informational, that are blog posts, that are top of funnel, are seeing surprisingly high conversion rates. Start mapping out the different customer journeys and understanding which ones are driving money versus which ones are content to drive traffic alone. By the way, you can also do this in SEO Monitor on a keyword level. That's particularly nice to understand on a per keyword level what's driving revenue. But once you understand what's already resonating, that's when you can be set up to start understanding what might resonate in the future. So what I advocate for here is content experiments, right? In a world where you can produce content really, really fast, you can just run a few experiments with this and kind of put together some theories as to consumers that we're not targeting right now, audiences that could be interesting, and then understand what top of funnel for each of those audiences looks like. Say you've come up with 10 ideas as consumer groups that we're not properly engaging with that could turn into high converting groups if we get in touch with them well. You can then use something like ChatGPT is what I used to use, create some articles on that on the basis that you're going to replace those articles. You want to see how they do. Nowadays, I use SEO Monitor's content writer for this because it chucks in a bunch of context. We'll talk about that later. But what you do is you create that content and then you work with the PPC team. Give them the justifications to say, I think this content could do well if we drive a bunch of traffic to it. Cheap traffic because it's informational. We drive the traffic to it, we see how it starts converting. Only then when we see conversion through these paths, we see they are real paths, do we go in and start improving these articles, start building a narrative around them. We know this content does well. We can use PPC to prove out our SEO research. Let's talk about reputation. So years and years ago, I worked on Expedia in the UK and Finland. It was really interesting because they just launched in Finland. And in Finland, we were seeing half the click-through rate for non-brand organic terms as we were in the UK. The reason for that, in the UK, they had a bunch of brand understanding and trust. Brand was doubling their click-through rate at almost every position. Brand is really important throughout the entire journey. It adds wins to your sales. It increases click-through rate. It increases stickiness, increases micro and macro metrics. It allows you to convert better. It also allows you to understand what your content should say. Should we lean on our reputation for reliability or go into an explanation of why we've changed? Are we seen as overpriced and so we need to tackle that head on in our content? Or do we have a great value proposition that people already understand? Does everyone hate our CEO and therefore we must not mention them under any circumstance, right? Understanding our brand, understanding our reputation allows us to understand and inform our content. Here's how I audit brand sentiment. So create a list of about 20 keywords, right? Is my brand legit? Is it reliable? Is it good, trustworthy? Brand reviews, brand worth it, brand ratings, etc. You'll split them into 3 groups: negative sentiment, neutral sentiment, positive sentiments. And you'll start tracking them and categorizing them within that. But where I think it gets interesting is that actually within the negative one, you have some highly negative stuff. And within the neutral one, even though it's a neutral term, you'll have some negative and neutral stuff and positive stuff too. So what I do is I pull that into Google Sheets. I use Google Sheets via the SEO Monitor API to pull out the pages. I then crawl those pages and on a per day basis use Google's natural language API to tell me the sentiment of each page that's ranking for each of those terms, which I can then roll up to say for a term like ASOS ratings, what's the overall sentiment on that day across my brand terms. I can then track that, I can stick that in a Looker Studio dashboard, and then I can see over time how my sentiment is changing on organic rather than traditional metrics that just look over social or any other channels. This is really useful because when you've got it in Looker Studio, you can map it to sales and you can start seeing how they're affecting each other, and also rankings and click-through rates to start reporting on that. edge. What's the brand's edge over its competitors? We need to understand a few things. True intent, not just whether it's informational or commercial, but what are people actually Googling that term for? Are they Googling it because they want to impress their partner with something they're buying for them? Are they Googling it because they need a restaurant that is family friendly? What's the real intent behind that term? What are the barriers to purchasing? What are the reasons to purchase? And where is the brand position in this? So a year ago, I used to solve this by doing expert interviews. I'd speak to people in each company. I'd say, look, explain to me why people buy your thing. And if you're doing that, Dovetail's amazing. It allows you to record those interviews, you stick them in Dovetail, and then it starts pulling out insight for you. But what I realized is these people's time is hugely valuable. So you can create Google Sheets that essentially uses AI to take the first draft at this for you. You then send this to the expert saying, this is what I think people are doing at each of these pathways. Can you please review it and tell me where we're wrong? Where you're wrong is often the most interesting data, right? And actually then you're saving that expert tons of time. They're more likely to engage. Edge also requires you add something new to the discussion though, right? If you're just repeating what everyone else says, not new. So I was talking to this guy and he told me that what's old in one country is new in another. What we realized is actually if you can look at what's ranking in America, it's often different content with new things that you can add to the discussion in the UK by virtue of the fact that you've just not talked about it in the UK before. I used to solve that with ExpressVPN. Just go on a VPN, type in your terms, see what's ranking in the UK, in the US, see what content's not being discussed in the UK, and add that new content in to the UK SERPs essentially. SEO Monitor stuck that in the tool. No idea how that ended there. Annoying. The Rare framework gives you keyword research with context. Context adds value, to enable to convert and retain. It's that lack of context that makes content fall flat, that creates pass the parcel, that makes content forgettable. It's also the reason, by the way, ChatGPT hallucinates, because it just doesn't have enough context to know what you're going on about. What I realized over the last year, mostly because of this idiot, is that when you feed that context into an LLM, suddenly the LLM gets so much better. And can you guess, as I said, which tool decided to integrate that into what they were doing? So I think what I'm saying is that properly giving someone context creates better content. Not that surprising. But we're not doing it. We haven't had this context. We're not looking at that when we're creating what we're creating. We should start doing that. If you do 3 things, having sat through 100 bloody slides, add that consumer context into your keyword research. Test it out using AI content. See how adding that in there goes. Do your A/B testing. Start seeing what that looks like with that added context. Prove it for yourself. Third one, this is Dave. He's serving ice cream down at stage 46. I know I need some. So yeah, do that. Try SEO Monitor. They sponsored. Download the deck. That's everything. Thank you.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.